How's it going? Thanks for tuning in. This is my first video in 2024, so I want to wish you a quite belated but still very happy new year. I hope you had some nice days with your families, and I really hope that 2024 is gonna be the year for you guys. And yeah, for us, our investment in Chinese companies, in Chinese tech, in NIO in particular, well, 2023 really wasn't our year, right? So if I'm looking at my portfolio performance, it's great. It's up 45%, but NIO certainly has dragged it down a lot, and it's one of my largest holdings. So we need something to look forward to, and well, this is one thing that I'm personally looking forward to in 2024. On this slide, I briefly summarized of what I'm going to explain in this video, namely what I think might be a shift in investor mindset towards NIO and battery swapping in particular, and NIO Power. And yeah, I think that might be something to look forward to. This is just my own personal opinion, but I want to use this video to take some time to go through those four quadrants here and explain a little bit how I'm personally thinking about this. So as you may know, in 2023, in the last couple of months, there was so much focus on NIO cash burn and how battery swapping is a huge burden and investment to take. And it's true. And NIO is, in a sense, investing in a future that is uncertain, right? It possibly may not turn out bright and well. However, what I think could happen in 2024 and beyond that actually materialize will be the sense that NIO battery swapping is a liability shift towards that NIO battery swapping is something investors want to see NIO build out even faster and further, because it's going to be a profitable, productive asset. And what I mean by that is, if we're looking at those four topics here, first of all, monetization of battery swapping. This is something NIO already started in 2023, right? So the first NIO buyers, they have been subsidized. It was a marketing activity to give them free battery swapping for lifetime. This is something that we've seen Tesla been doing for the Model X and Model S owners. Also around 300,000 Tesla owners first got free supercharging for life. But NIO did the same for battery swapping, and now has decided, also partly pressured by market, I think, that they, the next users, they will actually have to pay for battery swapping. And so the battery swapping system as a means of replenishing power is now being charged, and that means it's basically the costs are being paid for, and that's of course a main KPI to watch and a main characteristic that investors want to see. But I think they're still not buying it. They don't believe that battery swapping itself can become a profitable service, and whether or not it's actually necessary compared to supercharging. So these question marks, I think they still exist. They will still persist in 2024. But what I'm trying to show here is that I think this narrative will possibly not longer exist in the future if NIO can pull off what they have actually started in 2023 already, which is namely here the franchising of infrastructure and investment. So this is actually around the partnerships that NIO has started to announce by the end of the year with, for example, Geely and Chang'an, more of them coming. And well, we don't have any hard facts yet on who's going to split cost in which regard. However, what is clear is that NIO is kind of franchising their battery swapping model. They will be building battery swap stations, or others will be building battery swap stations based on the NIO battery swap stations, and will also partly invest in it or fully invest in it. So in a nutshell, the battery swapping ecosystem is going to grow bigger and bigger on the NIO Power and NIO battery swap system layer. It's going to be multi-brand, and it's also not going to only be invested by NIO in terms of that infrastructure is going to be shouldered by many more parties. And so it's not going to be NIO anymore on its own that is just going to invest in that. And with that, we get a kind of a better economic model for battery swapping as well. But those 2 points, charging for battery swapping as well as others coming in and also investing in the infrastructure, this is just on the energy replenishment system per se, right? But what's going to happen, I think, in 2024, and it's becoming more clear, is that NIO will also venture in the area of energy business. And that is, of course, what I've mentioned here on the channel before regarding virtual private networks and grid balancing, meaning that battery swap stations will play a role of energy storage within the grid. And that is a different system and business, but it's kind of cross-subsidizing battery swapping for EVs. And this is where NIO is in a unique position that battery swapping is different to supercharging, where every battery swap station can be used as a way of using the grid power and storing it for some time. For example, at peak power, when there's lots of renewable energy, for example, the wind is blowing, the sun is shining, and there is not many takers of that energy, NIO can get this energy at a lower cost because these are the market fundamentals and mechanics, and store it in these batteries and then give it back into the grid either and earn an arbitrage or on that, or use it and fill up their batteries at a low cost and therefore giving it back into EVs. And that is part of the energy business, where we now have the news that the Chinese government is announcing that they want to have large build out of so-called vehicle to grid. I think here again NIO is in a prime position to capitalize on that because of the separation of the battery from the vehicle. So I think other brands will most likely not be really interested, especially the users, to use your battery in the car to help to balance the grid, or to earning a little bit of a couple of cents on arbitrage on the energy grid here, because simply the impact on the battery may actually erode all of the benefits of participating in such a vehicle to grid system. But for NIO, that is actually different, because the NIO owners are not owning the batteries. In NIO's case, it's NIO and the battery asset management company that is owning those assets, and where it actually makes sense to participate in such kind of a grid balancing opportunity. And there's more evidence that I just discovered that NIO is going to be a big player in that field. So this is a company registry filing in China, and the company is called Zhong'an Nengyuan, and that's in Anhui. And if you translate the purpose of this company, it is an enterprise mainly engaged in the production and supply of electricity and heat. That company has just newly been registered, and interestingly, one of the important shareholders here is Weilai Nengyuan. So that is NIO Power, so the entity of NIO that is headed by Shunfei, the head of NIO Power, who is also becoming an important director here in this new company that is co-invested by many companies, including the local grid company of Anhui, in which NIO is actually based in Hefei. So I think this goes to show that NIO is being very serious about the monetization of its energy business, becoming one of the providers that is actually being in a position to really exploit this large opportunity in the Chinese energy market, which is the largest market in terms of power output generated, more than 8,000 terawatt hours. That's bigger than the US, it's bigger than Europe, bigger than Japan, as you can see. And there's a company called NIO that will be an important player in benefiting from how China is going to develop this new market, a market mechanism where energy trading becomes possible, where virtual power plants are being used, and where battery swap stations are part of the energy storage in order to balancing the grid. And so this is another way of making those battery swap stations actually profitable and productive assets other than replenishing power, right? And then on top of that, we'll see services and royalties that are, kind of a high margin business connected to all of this. We've got players like the power and grid companies. We've got players like the partners of battery swapping and so on. And all of them will need some sort of services that have to do with intelligence, like battery health management, big data, and also just some operational help. And that will be provided by NIO Power as a service fee, in my opinion, as well as on top all of the IP and knowledge gathered by NIO over the years, which will result in royalties and licenses. So with all of these four quadrants here, I think it's very likely that in the future we'll see that battery swapping, even beyond just the use case of replenishing power and swapping batteries for the actual vehicles, will become a profitable driver of the business. And then we will see quickly that investors will actually demand that they are building out more and faster if they can, because each new battery swap station being built will actually, just add to the profitability of the company overall, in my opinion. So this is where I hope and I think we'll see very clear signs how NIO is, operationally executing on these opportunities here, which frankly, I don't see anybody else doing that either. So, others are maybe doing superchargers build out, but, even not as fast as NIO. But is anybody really in the business of balancing the grid and using all of the batteries and the fleet for becoming a larger part of a puzzle piece here? I don't think so. That's the unique investment opportunity that NIO is presenting to investors. In my point of view, I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments whether or not you see this future unfolding as well. Thanks for watching, and let's have a great year 2024.